Namaste everyone and welcome back to another episode of Stories You Should Know by Misty, a podcast where I talk to women around me about their dreams, ambitions and fears. This is episode 5, Meet the Doctor. This is a very special episode as I talk to Dr. Richa Arun, a frontline warrior of the COVID-19 pandemic. A 29-year-old doctor currently posted in Seven Hills Hospital, Mumbai on COVID duty. Richa specializes in community medicine, a branch of medicine dealing with healthcare issues affecting community as a whole. In her words, she has been getting ready to face the pandemic for a very long time. We recorded this episode over a Zoom call, so the audio quality may differ from the previous episodes. I'm happy to tell you that you can also watch the video of this episode on my YouTube channel. You can type Tarushi Chaudhary and you'll find it. Now before we start, I want to ask you for a small help. I want you to tell your friends about my podcast. Send them the link, tell them to hear it once. If you and your friends like this podcast, give it a shout out by tagging me on Instagram and Twitter at TangyMisty. You can also use the hashtag Stories You Should Know by Misty. So now, let's go. It's time to meet the doctor.
Richa, thank you so much first of all for saying yes for this thing. I know you have a very, very packed schedule. And it's been kind of a crazy 2.5 months, both mentally and physically. How are you coping?
Yes. So it has been crazy 1.5 months. I've been continuously on Corona duty right now.
Right.
And I don't know how I'm coping. I have my own breakdowns. And there are times when I don't know what to do. And then I just run home and meet my mom. So that day I just told my seniors, I was doing 10 days continuously. Then I was like, I need to take a break for 1 day at least. So then I went home, I met my family and then I came back again.
How long you have been away from home exactly now?
It's been around 2 months, yeah. Since 18th of March, I think. So yeah, more than 2 months now.
So you're currently posted in Seven Hills Hospital and you're a senior medical officer there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm doing my bond actually after I finished my MD last year in community medicine. So basically community medicine involves handling a pandemic, doing research work and all of that. So it is kind of the work which my field is supposed to do right now.
Right.
So like that
so
is
you
why
were being prepared since a very long time to handle situations.
Yes, I
like
gave
this.
an exam on this.
So, I mean, of course, no one was prepared for whatever is happening, but you were kind of studying about it.
We were studying about it. We were asked about Ebola and everything in our exams and all that.
How old were you when you realized that, you want to be a doctor?
It was in my 6th standard when I gave my Homi Bhabha science exam, and they asked in that form, I was giving my final interview of that exam, and in that exam they used to ask what do you want to become when you grow old. So I had written doctor over there. So actually my family is a big inspiration for me. Most of my family from my mother's side, they are all doctors.
Okay.
So I see the kind of work they do and I'm like, I also want to do work like that.
Because it's a very noble profession, you are saving lives. Doctors are gods. For us, we are told, doctor Bhagwan hai. Bhagwan saman hai, wo tumhari jaan bachata hai. So it's a very noble profession, but it's a very tiring profession. The study itself takes such a long time, right?
It's been around 10 years I've been studying, and finally last year I finished all my studies and I gave my last exam of my life, and I'm like, I am not going to give any more exams.
and this situation happened and now you're like Now you're
And
doing
I'm
this.
glad my exam was last year, because the students who are giving the exam this year, all their they are indefinitely postponed,
Right.
and they don't know when they are going to give their exam. So they don't know whether to work in the hospital or sit at home and study or do what. So they are very confused. So it's
So how
difficult for
has
them.
these 10 years been for you? You know, studying, continuously studying, trying to be a good doctor. You know, you have been posted at quite a few places as an intern also. And I believe you have been posted in some of the rural areas also.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my 5.5 years of MBBS were amazing. I enjoyed it a lot. It was like any other college life, but with medical education. So I
Right.
participated in all activities and everything. So I was very stress-free. But then after that, I wanted to do pediatrics actually. So I was studying for that, but unfortunately, I couldn't get a rank to which I could get a pediatric seat. So I repeated again the entrance exam. I repeated for 3 years.
Wow.
And then
You really wanted to be a doctor.
yeah. So then I got into Nair Hospital, and I took up community medicine over there. Because
So what made you select this particular, because there are a lot of other options also when you get a certain rank, but what made you select this particular section in medicine itself? Because it's not something that everyone takes.
Yes.
No one wants to do this.
So basically I had a choice between microbiology and community medicine. And I thought if I take community medicine, I will be more in touch with people instead of sitting in a lab and doing tests. So I wanted to be amongst the people, wanting to treat them, creating awareness and all of that. So it was more for me to do, because I wanted to become a doctor since childhood, and then finally I get to do what I like to do.
Right.
So that is why I took up this field.
So what do they teach you in community medicine? Because it's something now, the community medicine is the people in this particular area are the ones who are dealing with the pandemic right now. What do they exactly teach you over there? That is, I mean, of course, how to treat the patients, the medicine and everything, but there must be something very different from the other field also.
So basically, community medicine was called preventive and social medicine first.
Okay.
So there is a preventive aspect of medicine which this field looks after. So how to prevent diseases, how to create awareness, how to prevent pandemics, how to prevent epidemics, and how to contain the disease. And there are different levels of prevention: primordial prevention, primary prevention. So there is a type of prevention where you tell healthy people what to do so that you don't get disease, and somewhere there are risk factors, so you tell them how to manage those risk factors. So this is the preventive part of this field.
Right.
So where you prevent the disease, and not so there's tertiary prevention also, where you manage the patients at the hospital.
Right.
But our aim is to manage patients at the primary level.
Right. And now, right after you completed your studies, you're actually on ground now. You're actually on field. You are utilizing everything you studied with what's happening currently. How has life changed right after your studies? You were practicing like a normal routine. What was that like, and how has things changed for you over the past 2.5 months?
So I don't know if I was doing anything normally or not, because I had taken up a post in Gadchiroli in the mental health department over there. So over there, as a public health expert, I was working in the mental health department. So I was looking after the research in those areas, and I was doing monitoring and evaluation of a mental health program over there, and taking care of psychiatric patients. Then promoting awareness about alcohol de-addiction and all of that I was doing over there. That wasn't a normal thing to do for a person from Mumbai actually.
Right.
because everybody normally takes up a job as a lecturer in the college, or after their MD is over. The normal routine which people do is take up a job at any college and do a post of SMO over there. But I wanted to work with the people, so I have experienced something different,
Right.
which, so in Mumbai I wouldn't be able to get to know. So I had a amazing experience in Gadchiroli. I got to know there were different culture that was over there and everything. It was a learning experience for me over there too. So I don't
And you
know
were
if it was
dealing with mental health and patients over
mental
there,
health.
which itself is a very stressful job, because
It
there,
was stressful. Yeah.
I mean,
So-
I know this thing because it's very difficult to deal with mental health problems and then come back home and be sane at the same time, because you're already
Yeah.
listening to so many problems going on, and then you're contemplating things in your own
Yes.
life.
Yes. It was difficult, and I was staying away from home over there also.
Right.
So I think I was preparing myself for this pandemic over there. I think.
So you have
Away
been
from
born and
people.
brought up in Mumbai, right?
Yes, in Vileparle.
And now you are staying in a hotel,
Yeah.
and your home is right here, like right near your.
Yeah. So I the hotel is in Powai, and my house is in Vileparle East.
I don't even know how you're coping with this. I know it's very difficult. I mean, for someone like me who's staying away from home, doing her job and everything, but I do have a place over here. You, in spite of having your
Right.
own home, you have to stay in a hotel. I want to know, Rucha, when you were normally practicing, when you were there in the mental hospital,
Yeah.
you were practicing and everything. When the news broke out about the COVID-19, what was the
Right.
first reaction of you as a doctor? What did you do? What was the first reaction? What kind of research you did on it?
So first, after Gadchiroli, I took up a post in Cooper Hospital because I wanted to stay with my family after being in Gadchiroli. So over there were different posts available. One was in the urban health center, one was in rural health center, and then they had just started the Seven Hills quarantine center over there. So I was very excited actually to go and work at Seven Hills because the whole world was talking about it and everything.
Right.
So when my head of the department asked me, ki, Ruja, do you get cold and cough frequently? And like I just had a sore throat like then. So I
Right.
ignored it. I ignored that and I said, no sir, no, I don't get any cold or cough. So he's like, then you'll be posted at Seven Hills. So that is how it started. So when I first went there, we were just screening all the travelers that were coming from the airport, and we were quarantining them at the Seven Hills Hospital.
So when you found out that a virus like this is out, and this was your area of expertise, this is what you have been studying. What was your first reaction when you found out about this news that something like this is spreading now, as a doctor?
Okay, yeah. So like everybody else, I was like, it's not going to affect us. Like it's happening outside India. I don't know if it will come to India or not. So, but then when I started walking at Seven Hills and I saw the number of travelers coming, I was like, this is going to spread like anything.
Right.
I realized it then, because even that first night duty which I did at Seven Hills, there were 300 passengers who had come.
Wow.
And there was no proper, we were screening them, but there were a lot of loopholes in it. Some were just faking their age and going back home, and nobody, it was,
Right.
you cannot manage so many people, yaar. So
And it was very new also. There were no proper guidelines, what to do, what not to do. The
Yeah.
do's and don'ts were not set up.
everybody was learning, but we had a protocol for all the passengers, and we categorized them into A, B, and C.
Right.
The A patients were directly sent to Kasturba, which we thought that okay, most likely these are corona patients.
Right.
So we sent them to Kasturba. B category patients, we quarantined them with risk factors. They had either diabetes or were more than 60 years or had asthma or diabetes and all. They were quarantined at Seven Hills, and C category patients were home quarantined.
Right.
So that was the protocol which we followed back then.
And what was the situation like in the hospital in the initial time when, when the doctors are now getting up, the instructions are being given to everyone? What was going on among the staff itself? How scared were they?
I don't think anybody was that scared because they had that preparedness in mind ki what is going to happen. So we started by making a list of how many beds are required, how many staff is required. So everything was just on paper. Then slowly we started recruiting doctors, we started training them. And I think my seniors did a very good job of training the doctors over there at Seven Hills, and they are managing amazingly the hospital which is there. And the patients are quite taken care of, but there are obviously there are obviously negative points where the patients are ignored, they feel ignored. Sometimes they are actually ignored, but
do you think that's because also because we are so understaffed, that's why it's happening?
It is.
How does the normal now how the regular days are looking like? I mean, you're getting how many patients on regular basis? How difficult is it? Is there still that panic mode on? From someone who's outside, I'm reading news, right? I know there's a lot of like Mumbai is at the peak. Every day I read a news, it says that highest number of COVID patients recorded in Mumbai. Every day it's the same news. Every day we are reaching another milestone of highest number of patients. How is it happening in the hospitals, Is it getting difficult for doctors to manage?
It is difficult because we don't know, because many people come for admissions and we cannot admit all of them. We are not admitting asymptomatic patients, those who do not have anything, but we are admitting critical patients, and all whatever the staff is there, we are admitting them. So admission is a problem, and we are getting around 80 admissions, almost around 80 admissions every day, but we are also discharging around 60 to 70. Day before yesterday we had 77 discharges. So there are people who are turning negative and we are discharging them. So beds are available, beds there, but it happens only when the discharges happen. Beds will be available.
True.
So how many discharges happen, that many admissions we take. So the hospital is always full.
Right. And as a doctor, how aware you think the public is when you see them coming in, or when maybe your friends or family is asking you about the information? How well you think people are aware about what's going on and what they should and shouldn't do?
They are quite aware about what is happening, but there is a lot of fake news also happening around. There are different types of treatment available. You should use this medicine, you should use that medicine. But nothing is proven till now. We cannot just there's no evidence for that. What kind of treatment is there? Everybody is researching only. This is one big research that is happening all over the world. How to contain this disease. We don't know actually.
And
we are waiting for the vaccine.
How's your family coping with this thing? Because it's not just a quarantine situation for them. A member of the family is always in a infected and a prone area. You're always there, continuously there. How are they coping with this mentally also, and how are you coping with it?
So my dad is not a doctor and my mom is a doctor, so she understands the necessity of me working over there and staying away from the family and everything. But my dad is very, I don't know, he doesn't understand what is happening. He said, why are you staying away? You can stay at home. It's okay.
Yeah.
And all that. So I was
think he's just being a protective dad.
But I'm staying away for you only because he is diabetic. He's more than 70 years. And he's very weak right now, but it's funny how he's like, "Arey, just come, it's okay."
How are you doing? You're staying away from home since last 2.5 months. How's it mentally for you? I don't know, have been exhausting, but how is it?
It is exhausting. I talk to my mom on phone, I talk to my friends. I connect with them through social media. I started my page on Instagram, but I've shared my stories. I started doing yoga, and yoga has helped me a lot to keep myself mentally stable. So I am doing the 30-day thing, and I'm on my 9th day today.
That's nice. At least something to keep you motivated, keep your mental health in right place.
Actually, I have my ukulele, so I play sometimes.
That's amazing. What do you play? Oh, that's so great. Can you just play something? This is so good.
I'm just learning. I don't know anything. I was just doing the Shaam Bhi Koi song. I'm not great at it.
Just sing 2 lines for us, no? I think you can do that.
Shaam Bhi Koi जैसे है नदी लहर लहर जैसे बह रही है कोई अनकही कोई अनसुनी.
That's one of my favorite songs, by the way. But I'm so glad you're learning something new. No, you didn't. You absolutely did. I think that was very sweet. Yeah, that was very, very sweet.
Thank you.
Richa,
I'm learning the ukulele. Yeah.
So tell me something. Now you are there in the hospital. You spoke about how doctors are dealing with it, how patients are coming in, about their information. What about the patients who are positive, who are COVID positive? How are you guys dealing with them, and what's their mental status currently?
So right now, they are more psychologically stressed instead of being clinically affected, because the fact that it is such a widespread disease is getting to them. Oh my God, I have got corona, and they are actually very psychologically stressed. So the staff over there first tries to counsel them and says that it's okay, you will get out of this. It is treatable, and it is, once you become negative, you will be discharged and you will go home. And so that's how they counsel the patients. But it is tough for them too, and they have to stay away from their family. They cannot meet their family. They can just talk to them on the phone, and so it is difficult for them. But there are times when death happens and the relatives are away, and then suddenly death happens and the relatives are like, what? There is a lack of communication. Now we try our best to communicate to the relatives the status of the patient, but it is difficult because there are almost 25 to 26 wards in the hospital, and we have to locate every patient. There are around 900 to 1000 patients over there. So keeping the relatives updated about the statuses of the patient is very difficult. So they keep calling, please बताओ हमारे patient का क्या status है, हमें जानना है. So it is difficult more for the relatives, because the patient is in the hospital, he is being taken care of, but the relatives don't know anything what is happening to the patient, what medicines he is getting, what kind of treatment he is getting, when will he be discharged. So the doctor's priority is right now to keep the relatives informed about the patient. So we have created a system where every day after the rounds, the doctor will call up the relatives of the patient in their ward and update them.
Okay. So what's a regular day looks like now for you, when you right from when you wake up? How does the day look like for you now?
So I wake up, do yoga, and I just have breakfast over there. Sometimes my roommate gets breakfast for me. So I go by the BST bus to the hospital. They have arranged buses for us.
Okay.
So once I go, I have to update my seniors about the previous day admissions and the discharges.
Right.
So I take a look at the statistics, make sure the data entry operator enters the data.
Right.
Then sometimes we go to the wards, take a round of the hospital, what is missing, how many critical patients are there,
Right.
how many discharges are pending, how many swab reports are there. We trace the reports, so we come to know how many negative patients are there. So we
Right.
make a list of those patients and then we send them to the doctors, treating doctors. We tell them to discharge them as fast as possible. So I have to manage the discharge part of the patient, wherein the paperwork and all
Right.
that.
And what's that
We are
age group that's been affected the most right now?
The most affected is around in the 40 to 60 age group.
Okay.
And I think 40 to 60 and young adult also.
Okay.
Almost
Right.
similar. Yeah.
Right.
But the critical ones are above 60 years of age.
Okay. Because of the immunity and if they
Immunity
have a
and
prior
comorbid
disease and everything.
conditions.
Yeah. And then, like after the discharge.
So the discharges happen, we take care of the swab reports, we take a round and everything. We get our lunch. We have a separate floor for ourselves because we are in the administrative department. So we get packed food, lunches. Now we have started getting non-veg also to increase our immunity and all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So food is quite a challenge, huh? I mean, what you're eating, what you're not eating, it's kind of a
But
task
the
now.
hotel provides us, and they have one boiled egg every day for breakfast also, along with other things, and one fruit they give us.
And what about, see, from what I know is there is a lack of equipments, gas for doctors, because of course no one was prepared for it, so it wasn't
Right.
made in that kind of quantity. Now it's been quite a long time. Are you guys facing that problem?
No, currently we are not facing that problem. Most of it is streamlined. We are getting the equipment, we are getting the medicines. Whatever we ask for, the administration is providing the doctors with that. Yeah.
Right. And whenever someone comes into the hospital, you meet a patient, that person must be really, really scared. How do you deal with those people? Like regular people, if I get a cough and cough, I might just feel that, what, shit, I have COVID, I have to go and I have to, get a doctor's opinion.
Right.
That must be crazy because you're getting hundreds and hundreds of people every day with these kind of symptoms, and some are coming to you.
Yeah.
What is your first interaction with them? How do you deal with those?
So basically, first of all, we ask them what symptoms they have, and they really need to do the test, because sometimes they just come with minor symptoms. They have no history of contact or anything, and they don't actually require the test to be done. So first we check whether they really need the test, and then we take proper history, and then we send them for testing, because we don't have time to actually talk to them, because there are other things to do.
It's
it's
quite crazy.
It is quite crazy, yeah. And there are relatives which come fighting. We want to meet the patient. We will wear I have got the PPE kit with me. I will wear it and go and meet the patient and everything. And we are like, no, it is hard to explain to them that no, it is not allowed for the relatives to meet the patient. I have my own family relative admitted in the hospital right now, and I am not meeting him. He's my bhabhi's uncle.
Right. So I can understand. I mean, everyone just wants to know everything. They want to just see because no one knows how to deal with this thing. We don't know what to do when you're in a hospital, when someone's admitted because of the COVID. It's been a long time. It's been crazy for us. I think it's been more crazy for you guys. All the frontline warriors who have been there, doctors,
it's
nurses.
not like a regular hospital, like, you know.
Right.
You can go meet the patient, you can counsel them. The doctors can't spend so much time with the patient because there's a risk factor for transmission of the virus.
Right.
So that is also a difficult part we are facing right now.
How difficult is it for a doctor, for you guys to get up to get into a COVID ward? You know, the entire procedure, from what we know, it's very long.
It is. You have to wash your hand with this. You have to use the sanitizer, wash your hands, then wear gloves, wear the whole PPE. It's so hot in that PPE kit, and wearing it for 6 hours every day. And plus you have the mask and the goggles and the face shield uske upar se, and the vision is reduced by 20 to 30%.
Right.
Sometimes if you have specs, there is fogging of the glasses. You cannot see where you're going. So it is difficult, yeah.
So Richa, now it's been 2.5 months. You are dealing with this pandemic. Everyone is dealing with it, maybe you more than us, right? So moving forward, what would you like to advise maybe to people who are watching this, listening to this? What would you like to tell them? Because we have a certain information in our hands, we know to do certain things, not to do certain things, but as a doctor, what advice would you give?
I don't know as a doctor or not, but as a person in mental health, I would like to suggest that take one day at a time. Like, don't think a lot into the future, what will happen, when will the lockdown end, because it will create a lot of stress.
Right.
You know, thinking about what will happen in a month, or will the load increase, will the number of patients increase, and will it spread further, and will there be more deaths and all that. Thinking about that, it will create a lot of stress. So instead, concentrate on what you are doing right now, what is there in front of you, whatever your routine is. Form a routine for yourself, follow it, and just be in touch with your family, with your friends, and stop sharing fake news. Stop sharing without any evidence. If you have, if you want, if you actually get some good articles from proper journals and everything with evidence, then you can share those, or any guidelines you get from BMC or the government, you can share those. But if you just get random WhatsApp messages, so please don't circulate that, and because it will create more panic among everybody.
True.
Because they exaggerate a lot of facts and everything.
Right.
So for myself, I have stopped watching news because
you're already dealing with it. You're already dealing what is in the news. So I can totally understand that.
So like I'm like okay with what is happening in the hospital. I don't want to know about what is happening outside it right now.
Right.
Maybe later, if need be, then I will look into it. So that's what I want to advise.
This has been a wonderful session, Richa. I never knew that I can get so much information by just talking to you. And personally, I would like to say thank you. I haven't got a chance to say thank you to any frontline warrior. I think you are the one I can say thank you to on behalf of people I know, maybe everyone around me. It's difficult, I know, but it's more difficult for you guys than us. We are here living in a luxury, in a world. We can just sit and chill for a while. You guys can't do that. Thank you so much.
I have a 5-star bed, so
I like that spirit of yours. It was wonderful talking to you, Richa. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That was Dr. Richa, a frontline warrior of the COVID-19 pandemic. Always smiling and ready to help. It's people like Richa who are staying away from their home and fighting this war today so that we can think of a safer tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, please drop a comment if wherever you are listening allows you to. You can also write to me at tcisha@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you guys. I will be back with another story very soon. Till then, stay tuned, stay in, and be safe. This is Misty signing off.